What's the most creative way of driving someone crazy discreetly? Y'all are some evil. Edit, wow, this is great, I'm reading every one of them. April Fool's Day is gonna be so fucking wonderful, just hope I don't know any secret Redditors. Edit 2, keep them up, votes coming. Front page. The penny trick works great. Start by leaving a penny on your friend's desk, chair, coat pocket, places where you would expect to find a penny. Leave one a day for a while, varying the locations. Then start leaving them in shoes, socks, bed, pillowcase. At first they will ignore the penny, but eventually it will bug them. Took my roommate 3 weeks until he stroked out one night after finding a penny embedded in his bar of soap. I highly recommend this. Drives them fucking mad. Edit, I wanted to add go nuts with this. His final straw was the soap, but I really wanted to start putting them in his car and get a coworker of his to play along and start leaving them around his desk. I'm upset my plans fell short. Someone has been doing this to me at work for over a year now. Fuck you. Somewhere a long time ago, there was a thread that was how you would screw with someone if you had $500,000. One of the top comments read something like, get it all changed into pennies. Then slowly, start placing pennies around the person you would like to annoy. At first one a week, then once a day, and increasing from there. Pennies lining their dashboard. Fill their fridge with pennies. At some point, their mental health would start to decline, and eventually, all of this stress would cause a stroke. When they wake up, their hospital room will be completely lined in pennies. You are the first one to visit, wearing a suit made entirely of pennies. And as they realize they are going insane, and succumb to the stress of their final panic attack, the one that would kill them then and there, you would look them in the eyes, hold their hands, and place a single quarter into them. If anyone could find the original, I would be highly indebted. There's someone doing this to me. Fucking pennies everywhere. I believe it is past me. I fucking hate that asshole. Probably the only real use a penny has. My sister was really passive-aggressive towards her roommate. She used to eat all the berries out of Kellogg's Red Berries cereal but leave a small amount enough so she thought Kellogg's was just being an asshole. Your sister sounds like a serial killer. Ha. Ha ha ha. Historical note, John Harvey Kellogg was an asshole. Whilst my friend and coworker took a break one day, I plugged a wireless mouse into the back of his computer. For the past 2 weeks I occasionally jog the mouse, and he's slowly being driven insane by it. We did this to a guy at work, and hid the mouse in the empty cube next door. For the next few months, anyone who came to talk to him would stand in the cube next door and jiggle the mouse, or they'd do it when they walked past his cube, so it was never obvious to him that any single person was associated with it. He re-imaged his entire computer twice, convinced he'd been hacked and was being spied on. When they finally told him about it, it took him weeks to start talking to the perpetrators again. Edit, since I've gotten some questions, a couple clarifying points. We didn't realize that he'd re-imaged his system until he mentioned it later. Had we known how truly paranoid it was making him, everyone would have owned up sooner. Our office culture is kind of like this, with lots of pranks. People generally figure out whom to tease and whom to leave alone, but occasionally they get it wrong. Many apologies were tendered for this one. You could also randomly change the sensitivity in the mouse every few days after they have adjusted. I had a marketing team who constantly asked me for wireless keyboards and mice. They worked in a pretty crowded arrangement and I knew it would just cause problems, plus, there was no legitimate reason for them to have them and they cost significantly more. One day, out of defiance, Mr. Pencildick manager went out and bought them all cheap wireless keyboards, mice plus batteries and installed them themselves. I get several calls from the users complaining about keyboard, mice problems and walk over. Captain Pencildick looks smug as he points out the new hardware they finally got after months of asking us lame IT idiots for them. I take him to the bullpen where everyone has already returned to wired devices. Turns out, all that wireless activity in a confined area interferes with each other in hilarious ways. Ghost typing, ghost mouse movements. They were hitting the sync buttons repeatedly and stealing a channel from the guy across the room, etc. Best part was he tried to bill for 50 wireless keyboards and mice via a PO to accounting with its account number. Accounting rejected it. I bet Sir Pencildick gave out wireless keyboards for Christmas that year. Deleted. I once worked in an office where there was a legendary feud between two managers, Alex and Bill. Alex was an older guy. He was patronizing, arrogant, and had some kind of tenure. Bill was the guy who had to fix Alex's fuck-ups. Here's what Bill did. Sometimes Bill would just steal stuff off of Alex's desk, or swap them with something broken. Alex has a locked office, but Bill had a key to it, apparently. Bill was eventually caught, and then fired because Alex set up a webcam that snapped pictures and mailed them when it sensed movement. Sounds like Bill just needs to ask Alex out on a fucking date already. The end disappointed me. Gee, I wonder why Alex was always fucking up? This one's buried and I've posted it before, but it's worthy of this thread. I'll give a shortened version. Dude at work was complaining that his spoons were slowly disappearing from the lunchroom. He had brought 6 to work and he was down to 2. Everyone else in his lab hatched this plan. Every time someone sent him an email, at the bottom, in white text, i.e. invisible unless highlighted, everyone would write spoon 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 spoon. We all did this for several weeks. He had a Gmail account, and that's when he started losing his mind. Every website he visited had ads for spoons and flatware. He thought Google was reading his mind. Your lab is absolutely brilliant. I hope they're working on cancer, and not lipstick for ocelots or some such silly shit. Try to open a bag of chips quietly, for an hour. And then proceed to try and quietly eat the chips. That reminds me. I saved an old Sun Chips eco bag once. I just put it in my pocket and walked around. Son. People hated me. 3 years ago I made my wife a lasagna. Sauce from scratch, homemade spinach pasta, expensive cheese, the works. Hours invested, and the return? You should put more cheese on it like at the macaroni grill. I went out that night and bought 6 interior left-hand doors. All of our interior doors were right-handed. I cut plugs to fill the strike plate and hinge mortises, and every few weeks I change out a door or two, right hands for left, left for right. It only takes about 20 minutes now. Pull the door, plug the mortises, spackle the plug seam, chisel the plug from the opposite side, hang the opposite door and sweep up. I painted the first few times, but it's a white jam and I decided the paint smell was more suspicious than the unpainted spackle. It's a thin seam, and my wife wouldn't even know where to look. She's never said anything about it, but I've seen her grasp the air where a doorknob used to be 100 times. Fuck the macaroni grill. This should be in the Guinness Book of World Records as the most passive-aggressive act ever. Stealing this from the office. If you know somebody that has a house phone and uses it daily, or someone at the office with one, every day get in early, and take it apart and add 1 penny. Repeat this for months on end until it is a lot heavier than it used to be. Then, one day, take all of the pennies out and laugh as they smack themselves in the face with the phone. Alternatively, fill it with uranium. Not only will it get heavier, but they will also get cancer. That'll get 'em. Nice one, Jim. Every time their sports team loses, tie a red balloon to their car. Over time, the stimulus of the red balloon will become attached to the sadness of their team losing in their psyche. Then, simply show them a red balloon to reduce them to tears. Sure thing, Dr. Pavlov. Jason? Jasun, Jason. My neighbor is a huge fucking dick. Always being loud, yelling at his wife, the dog, the kids, etc. Always playing his shitty garage rock, blasting it out of the garage so the whole street can hear. My payback for this is that every night I go over to their front yard and move the stuff around. His shitty little garden gnomes, his shitty hose, his shitty lawn mower, his shitty shovel. Just move all of it around a little bit every single night. Every now and again I hear, "WHO keeps moving my fucking shovel around, har har. Sucker." And now he beats his wife. Congrats. Edit 7. I thought that said, "My neighbor has a huge fucking dick." I had to read it like 4 times. You should take a dump in his front yard. I spent a whole day crinkling a disposable water bottle every time I took a sip. Not crushing it, just a little crinkle. It caused a minor freak out at about 2 in the afternoon. You're the worst kind of person, especially if it's in a classroom. I would kill you, water bottle crinkler guy, be arrested and eventually taken to trial. My entire defense would be summarized by your comment admitting what you, bottle crinkler, did. I am quite confident that the next words out of the judge's mouth would be, "Oh. Case dismissed. Kill their family." Discreet part, don't get caught. Edit, people usually say thanks to everyone for upvotes and shit, but instead I propose an orgy for all who upvoted. Downvoters can join too, but don't get to penetrate anything. Most relevant username I've seen today. And chop them into chili and trick them into eating it. Take their iPod and replace all of their songs with the Kids Bop version. Calm down, Satan. You monster. Dump them by saying, "I'm done," and "it's too late to talk about it," then proceed to message them daily asking if they need anything, essentially making it impossible for them to move on. My ex is doing this to me while she is clearly already over me and it's working. To counter this, drop little hints that you're into someone else now. X, do you need blah blah? You, nah, use the name of a girl you both know, got me blabla thanks though. X, girl webbeth no last name? You, nah. X, girl webbeth no who then? Then just don't answer any more questions about this mystery girl. She will think you are sparing her feelings by avoiding the subject. It will drive her nuts who's suddenly stealing your attention. Block her number. This isn't that creative, but fun. When you are talking to someone, keep looking at one specific spot on their face, like a side of their nose or something. Don't stare at it all the time, but enough. If they ask if there's something on their face, act like you don't know what they are talking about. It doesn't take that long when they can't remember what they were talking about. Edit, I didn't remember it at all before someone linked it, but I did read Calvin and Hobbes when I was kid. Made a lasting impression, apparently. I tend to stare at the floor when someone is talking to me. My mother said she had a really horrid teacher in high school, so she and the other students decided they would just stare at his crotch whenever he was standing up. First he kept checking his zipper, then he stopped standing up, then he quit. She says it took about 2 months. Not someone did to me on purpose, but one that happened nonetheless. At my old rental I had with my sister, for about a couple of months I kept hearing ringing noises that similar to an old phone ringing every time I would walk through hallway, kitchen, lounge room or dining room. Or also when I listened to music on the stereo in the lounge room. For the months it drove me crazy. I would be walking and hear, stop to listen and lo and behold nothing. I never caught onto how come it stopped every time I looked for it. I thought it was a ghost, humoring myself, or that neighbor's fucking phone kept ringing. So one day I was looking for something in kitchen and I look on top of the tallest cupboard and find this motherfucking clock. This piece of shit had one of those old school bell and ringer on it. Vibrations from walking stereo made it ring. For fucking months that bastard drove me insane. No one believed me about the ringing. Turns out my mother bought my sister the clock and sat it on the top of the cupboard where it got pushed back where you couldn't see it. So yeah. Basically. Hide an item that will make annoying noise where you can't find it. In the wall. Step 1. Become an excellent pickpocket. Step 2. Specialize in placing things into people's pockets. Step 3. Place strange things into their pockets while no one is watching. The best things to place are fried eggs, not runny but still a gooey consistency, and a small balloon filled partially with lukewarm water called the phantom scrotum. Wouldn't that make you a poop pocket? Deleted. It'd be especially fun if you just put one thing in there. Like gumballs, or little Hawaiian tikis. While walking outside in a crowded area, start looking up in the sky, shade with your hand, point upwards and whisper something to whoever you walk with. Then take note how many other people will spend some time trying to figure out what you just saw in the sky. I'm currently watching Psych on Netflix and they have a pineapple in every episode. Recently I've noticed there aren't any more pineapples. Where are the pineapples? Did they stop the pineapple, or are you bad at finding them? They are there. Just look harder. Never finish your what? What were you going to say? What were you saying? What the fuck, oh my god, I can't take it. HHHNNNNNNGGGGGGGGG. Sandwiches. Sentence? My favorite was the person that sewed someone's sleeve button a little closer every few weeks so the guy felt his arms were swelling. Typically the prank works better if you do it to just one shirt sleeve. So they think one arm is swelling, but when they compare it to their other arm there isn't a difference. I was sitting in class and this really irritatingly prissy girl was sitting in front of me with her iPhone. She had the whistle ringtone on full blast and was getting blown up most likely by crack dealers, so her phone whistled frequently. The only logical thing to do in my mind was to whistle exactly like her phone every single time she looked away from it. I thought she would figure out it was me after the first or second time, but nope. I mimicked her phone going off for 45 minutes before she finally turned it on silent and put it in her purse. She also never found out it was me. TLDR, I mimicked a girl's iPhone text tone until she put it away. Mail them 3 pink ping pong balls every day with no explanation or return address, do this for years, then one day send them a single green one, and stop. Deleted. When you're talking to one of your friends or somebody you know, always stand just a little too close, or a little too far away. If you're standing too close and they back up, you back up too. And if you're standing a little too far away and they move closer, you move closer. Repeat. Watch them go slowly mad and probably try to avoid talking to you again. Surefire way to maintain meaningful friendships. Perfect, I hate talking to my friends. Smile all the time. This one is good, it's a great way to annoy teachers that you just hate. They got mad as fuck but they couldn't do anything, I was just smiling smiley face. Edit, changed it to past tense? If the person regularly uses a bike, put some small ball bearings inside the seat tube when they're not looking. The rattling will drive them crazy and they won't be able to work out where it's coming from. Then, a week or so in, remove the ball bearings, double the amount, cover them in grease and put them back in. The person will think that the rattling has stopped, only to have it slowly return worse than before. Repeat as desired. Edited to remove pushbike confusion. It's just a goddamn bike now. To clarify, the op here is probably a motorcyclist, and we use the term pushbike to describe non-powered bikes. Repeat the last two words of their sentence. Their sentence. Move something around constantly when they aren't there. If it's a neighbor, move their doormat every morning, put up their mailbox flag, put Vaseline on their car door handles every morning, rearrange garden gnomes. If at an office, make their chair higher or lower when they leave. Steal all but like 5 staples, break all their pencil tips, switch blue and black inks and pens. Edit, I should note that I know this can be extremely evil. I only occasionally used some of these on my grandma who used to live next door. And I only did it for a couple days at a time. Side fact, in abusive relationships this is called gaslighting. The abuser does this with the intention of making his/her significant other unsure of their own reality, sanity. The victim later questions the reality of the abuse itself, allowing the abuser to gain control. Confirmed, move your roommate's bed away from his/her wall 1/4 every day. If they move it back, move it to the past place plus 1/4. Keep doing this. Tuna hidden in their curtain rods. You are not a good person. Change the Internet Explorer icon to the Chrome icon. Sing the Batman theme song na 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 over and over but never say the Batman part. You build everyone up for it and it's just not there. Deleted. McDonald's most recent jingle does this with a brilliant twist. They used to sing the whole jingle in the commercials. Now they only play the ba da 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 da. And as the commercial stops, you fill in the rest, which is conveniently in first person. I'm loving it. They convinced you to finish their jingle and profess you love for their product. Edit, wow. That's the most upvotes I've ever gotten. Laughing face, happy my husband's birthday to me. I convinced a friend to send faxes to a hated coworker's phone line. She was the receptionist and had to answer the phone when it rang. It would drive her insane, there was no way to block the calls or 69 the fax machine back. I'd often time it to happen at really inopportune moments of the day. I had to change my extension at work because I kept getting faxes to the direct line. I'm positive that it wasn't someone messing with me, because the guy that had the extension before me said it happened to him as well. It's annoying as shit. I went so far as to send faxes back to the caller ID number and tell them they had the wrong number. It never worked. Buy non-brand products and replace your victim's main brands with them, while keeping them in the same main brand packaging. Everything will seem off a bit but they will dismiss it. Ha, joke's on you because I already buy non-brand. Leave a severed dick with a ribbon tied to it on their doorstep, then the next day, on their windowsill. Keep doing it in spots you know they will find it, then every couple of days don't leave one and marvel as they frantically try to find the hidden non-existent dicks. Edit, obligatory, holy shit my highest rated comment is about the use of severed dicks to drive someone insane. Discreetly. Put glitter on their ceiling fan blades when they're not in use. You're sure that's not just a way to drive them fabulous? When my friend used to raid in World of Warcraft, I used to rub my deodorant stick on his knuckles and earlobes while he was playing, knowing that he could do nothing about it. He would get so mad. Edit, to tell those saying this is not discreet, think of it like this, it's always discreet because of the nature of raiding in World of Warcraft. You just cannot take your eyes off the screen or else you will die. He never saw it coming. I could just be sitting there watching the screen and slowly move my hand, he had no chance of ever seeing me coming. This man is still my best friend, even though he has given me many death threats. Has anyone really been far even as decided to use even go want to do look more like? Of all the posts, yours infuriates me the most. Photocopy a paperclip 100 or so times, out them back in the drawer so whenever it's used, the documents have a paperclip on it. My office went nuts. Took it apart trying to find the paperclip stuck in the machine. Even called in a technician. Lols were had. This will get buried and I'm not the perp, but my dad has been mailing unsigned postcards to some guy whose kid played hockey with my brother years ago. He travels all around the world, and he brings a small cutout of this guy's head that he got from somewhere, Facebook or the internet or something, and pastes it on a postcard and mails it. I've seen pictures and sometimes my dad will put together an extra elaborate postcard at home and mail it from some distant location. My dad does a lot of exotic travel, so postcards have left from places like Timbuktu, Point Barrow and McMurdo Station. Not really evil, but a definite hybrid of the long, dad troll. TLDR, this guy, who my dad doesn't really know that well, has been getting anonymous postcards from around the world, featuring himself, for the last 8 or so years. Script an alarm for 13 minutes past the hour that plays the default system error sound with no visual feedback. Deleted. Always go into detail, the finest thinnest hair of detail. They will go insane to the point they collapse, sweat driving down their head, glistening and revolting. So talk like a woman? I have a friend that can't help but do this. It's absolutely infuriating. Sometimes I actually find myself unintentionally clenching my fists during their stories. From the Rooster Teeth podcast, conspire with friends to send all IMs to the target in quotation marks. Drives them crazy trying to fix the error, or change a setting that doesn't exist. Something I did to my boss. On top of the refrigerator at work is where we keep things like paper plates, paper towels, and plastic utensils. Every day, I'd take one of the plastic utensils and place it in the gap at the top of the fridge that's between the freezer door and the rest of the fridge, so every time he'd opened it, the utensil would fall on the floor. After about a week of doing this, he moved the bag of utensils from the top of the fridge to the cupboard next to it. So, I started putting 2 utensils in the gap. He finally got everybody together and asked that we stop putting things on top of the fridge. So, with absolutely nothing on top of the fridge now, I put a whole bunch of utensils in the gap. The next day, my boss opened the freezer and completely lost his shit. I hope I'm not too late to the party because I have a great one. If someone leaves their Facebook open, simply change their status posting privacy to only me, they will get 0 likes or comments on their status, and most likely won't notice for weeks, or even months. Obtain 3 pigs. Paint the numbers 1, 2 and 4 on the sides. Let them loose in a public place and watch the search for number 3. Discreetly. I downloaded the theme to 21 Weeks Later, the real creepy, instrumental tune. Put it on repeat, and left it in our living room, hidden, but at a real low volume. My roommate would study in the room all the time, so when it was quiet, you could barely hear it. After a couple weeks he says the living room gives him the creeps. Haha. Edit, 28 weeks later. I was early. Turn and say, do you ever get sad, in my most depressing voice, and start driving off the road for a second. I just emptied a small bag of Skittles into my dad's massive bag of M&Ms. Always a good time. If you know their favorite websites, then you can block them in the router, provided you have access to this. Set the schedule to appear random, but definitely when they usually try to access their sites. Then sit back and enjoy the chaos. You can even turn the access to the sites on and off while they are trying to access them. The joy they have of finally getting the page to come up will immediately be replaced with horror when the site fails to refresh. Just try not to smile too much. Ignoring them. Everyone wants some attention. This is specific to me, but the idea can be applied to many things. My desk is near the corner of my bed. To the point where if you move it forward a half inch, you can't vacuum past it. So my mom would vacuum every day, and I would push it back and forth every day so she'd get stuck half the time. She would always say that it was weird every time she got stuck, but never anything more. Until one day when she freaked out and was yelling that she was going to throw the desk out the fucking window. I did tell her what I had been did, and she didn't talk to me for a day or 2. She ended up laughing about it, and it's still fun to bring it up. I am pretty sure she wrote me out of her will though. I was going to say that a person whose mother cleans their room for them drives me insane, until I reread and discovered this gem. I did tell her what I had been did. You, sir, just made my morning. Thank you. Give them a weird nickname, like Bartholomew. Once they get used to being called that, get a new nickname. Rinse and repeat. Hide things that they just used in a different spot in the fridge. When I worked at a banquet hall in a hotel, I had a manager, who we'll call Steve, who treated everyone like shit, calling us stupid, calling us out on things not even the managers above him cared about, and just generally being an asshole. One day he puts this pissy memo on the bulletin board about not eating leftover food. None of the other managers cared about this, and it actually went in the garbage if nobody ate it, but instead of signing his name, he put banquet management. Well, as a joke I scratched that out, and wrote Steve. A couple minutes later, he walks over to the bulletin board, sees this, and starts screaming, "WHO wrote this," and then runs to his boss down the hall, and starts complaining, and the guy just doesn't know what to say and shrugs. Well, the entire staff saw this and thought it was hilarious, so we start writing Steve on everything. Over the next few weeks Steve gets more and more pissed, and launches an investigation, saying that he's analyzing the handwriting. At this point he still thinks it's just one person, despite the fact that the entire staff is in on this joke. He never really figured it out, and I'm not sure how crazy it drove him, but he did get fired for drinking on the job. I would intentionally mispronounce lasagna all the time in front of my brother, pronouncing it laszagne. He'd correct me every time, then eventually gave up. Then one day he says, "Want laszagne for lunch?" To which I reply, "It's pronounced lasagna." I've never seen his eyes twitch so much. Don't you think she looks tired? Try to convince them that their arch-nemesis is actually an actor they hired to make themselves look good. Another coworker, we rolled down his back window one day during lunch, and tossed broken glass on the back seat. The next day he shows up to work with it taped up. The following day after that he took his car down to the window repair shop where the mechanic rolled the window up in front of him.